We're here today with Emma from Ravio. She's going to be showing us the compensation tool, and we're here with our wonderful co-host Eric, all the way from the US, waking up very early to join us today in Europe. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks. Yeah, excited to be here.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
And
Excited.
we're going to jump in and have a look at Ravio. It's a comp tool, like I said, and this is one of the tools that I love to use and I wish I had previously in my career. So Emma, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about Ravio and what it does, and then we can jump into more about the actual product.
Yeah, sure. So, Ravio is a real-time global compensation benchmarking platform designed to help people and reward leaders be able to make compensation decisions easily, confidently, transparently. I think, we've seen lots of innovation in the tech and the HR space, but kind of compensation space maybe has been left a little bit behind. We're still working with the world of manual upload spreadsheets. You submit the survey, you get it, it's already 6 months outdated. And particularly with global scaling organizations, that makes it really hard to make pay decisions that fit the organization as you grow, adapt, and evolve. And we also know that comp is obviously a huge part of everyone's like day-to-day experience in a role, but it's often one of many responsibilities for a people person. And so Ravio is really designed to be the tool to enable them to get all the insights they need easily, quickly, and then be able to share that across the wider organization as well.
I mean, I like the sound of not having to use a spreadsheet.
You and me both. Yeah.
I think Eric lives in spreadsheets.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I'm getting very good at Excel, but if I could, maybe pull away from that a little bit, that'd be fantastic.
That's good. So Emma, why don't you, share your screen, show us a little bit about the product and take us through kind of some of the core features that the product has to offer. And then we will jump in with some questions where we think there might be some.
Yeah, perfect. Would love to. Let me share my screen and we can jump into it. So as I mentioned, Ravio is a compensation benchmarking platform. So that covers, base salary, it covers variable pay, equity, benefits benchmarking. We're going to focus mainly on the base salary benchmarking today. And when we think about salary benchmarking, I guess there's kind of two core elements to that within the Ravio platform. So we have all of our market data in this section, and I'll kind of chat through how we get and collect that in just a second. And then we also have an option to analyze your own organization and understand where individuals sit and be able to highlight potential pay challenges or areas that you might want to make proactive changes as well. So in terms of the data itself, I mentioned right at the start, we're a real-time provider, but I guess probably want to explain like what that actually means. Historically, companies would submit their data manually through spreadsheets. What we do is a little bit different. So we connect directly with companies' HR systems and pull the data out live. And what that means is we're able to provide real-time market data here, which we update on around about a monthly basis, and also real-time insights for your own organization. And I'll come to that in a second. In terms of the market data, you've got over 100 roles that you can benchmark in Ravio here across over 46 different global locations. We primarily started in Europe, but we've expanded that. And a number of then filters that you can apply to the data set. So we work with tech organizations, but there are subsets within that. So you might want to break down by funding stage, headcount, and so on. So maybe if we go through an example of like how a company might use the market data to hire for a new role. Jessie, if you're in Berlin, should we go with like a Berlin-based benchmark maybe?
Let's do it. Let's see how much we should be getting paid if we're in Berlin, everyone.
Perfect.
I like that. Let's show the Berlin people what they should be getting paid.
Right. So yeah, if we take a look, we can see for Germany, we also have some regional data. Eric, for you in the US, we also have some tiering data available there as well. So if we dive into Berlin and we're looking at a software engineer benchmark, we can now see the full spread of market data. So across the 10th to the 90th percentile here. The levels here on the left-hand side, these are our standard like Ravio levels. So if you've used like Willis Towers Watson, Radford before, it's a similar sort of style and convention. One of the things that we do when companies on board is we will level them against this standard framework. We know that head of in one organization will have wildly different responsibilities to a head of in another org. And so we take that leveling work off your hands so that one, that's less work for you as a people team, but then two, also, you know that it's being done consistently as well across the organization. And we'll have guidance here that you can access on exactly how we would define each of these levels. Full range spreads.
Emma,
Yeah.
if there are more or less levels that are needed for an organization, is that still customizable? You mentioned that you start off leveling against the standard benchmarking, but let's say for whatever reason we have a sixth in M6 or we don't go up that high and we only go up to M4. Like, can we customize that for our org?
Yeah, so we obviously work with a wide range of organizations. We might work with companies very early in their journey, say 50 heads all the way up to, thousands person companies. And this framework is designed to fit with all of those. So you might start off and you might not need these higher level management ones. You might just have M1, 2, and 3, and then your higher level exec positions. And that's totally fine. You don't have to use all of these.
I guess you don't have to use them.
Yeah.
That makes sense, yeah.
And the other
thing, you just map it. So it's really just the mapping exercise of like, what is the responsibility level and where would it make sense to pay this person based on the actual role versus like their title, which is good because, like you said, heads.
So just nothing would be mapped maybe to M5 just because we don't have anyone who maps to that. And so the data's there if we ever get to that point, but
exactly. Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's good. And is that something that you need companies to have? So like you need to have that Jessie's responsibility encompasses X, Y, and Z and is like more or less equivalent to a X on your frame, or like if they don't have that data, because I know a lot of companies don't, having worked in a lot that didn't have that data, like it's a big exercise, right? How much help is there in terms of like, oh, we just have all these position titles.
Yeah.
Mapping that to like something. How much help is there? Because I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh, you help with that? Great.
It's a really good question. So we have companies that come to us at almost every stage in that journey. You might have, an organization that has never done a leveling exercise before and don't have a framework, all the way up to people that, use multiple providers and know exactly how their framework should look. And we've adapted Ravio to work for both. So in the instance you have a framework, we'll create a correlation to say your level X maps to Ravio level Y. That exists live in the tool, and then that is used as a source of truth for all the benchmarking that comes later. But if you don't have a framework, that's not a problem. We can take all of your inputs from your HRIS, and then we have a leveling team that have worked at these traditional providers to have all the experience and can level all of your team for you, which essentially can then form the basis of your own framework, right? And you can adapt that as you go, but it's a good starting point for you.
Awesome. Great.
Cool. So yeah, we search for the role. We've got the location benchmark here. And then we can see the full spread of the market data. Now, as you can see, my target percentile at the moment is the 50th, but actually, companies might have different needs. It might not always be that you're targeting, the median of the market. And so you can also adapt this in Ravio, as you can see, in increments of 5 to match whatever particular target percentile you want for any given role as well. And once your employee data is flowing in, you can also easily benchmark your overall organization against this market data to see how you compare at an aggregate level as well. And then I would say the kind of final thing to call out maybe on this screen is, people teams aren't making these decisions in isolation. There's often hiring managers involved as well. And so we want this data in Ravio to be shareable. So there's manager permissions and access that you can give. There's, control to give people just access to the market data side of Ravio. But we also have the ability for you just to share a benchmark directly from the platform with no need to create a login. And this person would then only see, this level data with all the filters that you've applied with a live link that exists for 2 weeks as well. So to try and make it really easy to continue those conversations.
Fantastic. I had a quick question about the, you adjusted the to the 65th percentile. Can you get granular on that though and say that, we want our experts to maybe lead the market a little bit, but our entry level to maybe lag a little bit. Can you like adjust your benchmark percentages to on a level basis, or is it as a company we're at the 65th?
Yeah, so there is some customization available in the platform, not per level at the moment. Although as you can see, it's really easy to like toggle and adjust and like, adapt
Right.
that benchmark. But what you can do is you can customize per groups of employees. So you could say we want our engineers to be at maybe the 60th percentile and our sales team to be at say the 40th. So there is some
Yeah.
customization available.
And that's actually probably what I was actually trying to say. And I just, I want to make sure that, your engineers, you're really trying to pull them in. So you want to make sure that you can be a little extra competitive for them. Whereas others, it's not as important to be as aggressive in the market.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's in terms of like sharing, because you were talking about, you can share data. Is there like, there's obviously this platform that you can log into. Is it possible just to have like a non-dynamic view of like for managers? Because you said, there's manager permissions. Is it okay to have like non-dynamic views where they just kind of see for the people in their teams, or do they see everything below them in a relevant, area? Like how customized are permissions? Because that was always something I struggled with was, you want to share the benchmarks, and then you also want to like build banding off that. And where does banding sit versus benchmarking, and how do you help that communication? Because I think a lot of this is great, but if you can't translate it to managers, then it's hard to sell.
Yeah,
that would be my question. How do you do that?
So first things first, you can download the data out of Ravio. So that's both, this market data section, you could pull that out. And then also the analyze your company section, which we'll come to in a minute, where you can see your employees. But on top of that, as I said, we do have the manager views. And it's exactly as you said, Jessie. So we look at, who does that person like report into? Who are their direct and indirect reports? And that person would then only see information on those people. Something that we probably won't touch on today, but there is a whole salary bands module where you can build out or upload ranges, and managers would also get information on where their direct reports sat against those band ranges as well. So there's customizable like manager views from that perspective. At the moment, we don't actually show managers market data, but we're looking to add in customizable permissions so that you could decide which managers should be able to see what in the tool as well.
So they rather see the salary band information and relevant things to your company's leveling, but they won't see all market data and etc.
Correct. Yeah. And maybe that will make more sense once we jump into the...
Yeah, let's have a look then. Stop interrupting you. Let you show next bit.
I'm going to get there, I promise.
So yeah, this is the, I guess, other side of the benchmarking part of the platform, right? So, you've gone out, you've found the local real-time data for, a role that you're hiring for, but you also want to understand how does that fit into the context of my organization? And this is where this analyze your company section comes in. So I mentioned that we will level each of your employees against the Ravio framework. This is an exercise that we do at onboarding. No other work needed from you aside from giving us the HRIS integration and providing a framework if you have one. If you don't, like we said, we can level for you. And then what we'll provide here is a mapping for every single employee. So you can see I've got their salaries coming through from the HR system, and then the market target here on the right-hand side. And I'll just show you how we build it out. So there's sort of three main inputs that are influencing that. So we've got the job title matching. So this software engineer is mapped to our front-end benchmark. In this case, I have a framework. So my IC4 is mapped to Ravio P3. And then we can see this person is based in London and so has a London specific benchmark. And all of that generates this market target that we're seeing on the right-hand side.
Excellent. Now, you mentioned that it ties into your HRIS, so you can get that real-time integration. I've worked for some places that don't necessarily have integration capability. Is there a way to get that employee data into here for that kind of analysis without having an actual like API or something, integration that gets it there?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, the ideal is we get everything flowing in real time, but that's not always possible, right? And so we also support manual data upload. So
Okay.
like you would submit with your traditional providers, you can do that straight in the system as
Okay.
well.
I love that you asked
Fantastic.
that question, Eric, because as much as we all in our little bubble here in the world think that everyone has, the most forward-thinking tech in the world and it does everything and integrates, and we've all got AI, doing our whole job for us. There's actually a lot of organizations that don't have the capability yet. So I think it is a very valid question.
And there are large organizations that don't have it. It's not
Yeah.
just the small ones. I've worked for some that have been large, and every survey we did was just uploading an Excel document, and all the announcements we did was me developing Excel formulas. So something like this would be great if we can get that kind of integration.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good point as well, is thinking about organizations that maybe skew slightly larger. I don't know about your experience, Eric, but often we see that maybe they're not diving in line by line on an employee basis like this. So although we have this level of granularity that you can dive into and, really easily identify who your employees paid most behind market that you might want to take a look at as part of review conversations and so on, it's also equally important to understand, how do we pay as a whole organization, and what is the trend that we're seeing against market data. So there's a number of splits that you can apply here to understand, how do we pay by department, or how do we pay by country? Because these also might be trends and insights that you then want to dive into, rather than always defaulting to the most sort of granular employee level view as well.
No, that's interesting. Can I ask a question on FTE? Like, let's say someone's part-time. Does the system have that ability to be like, this person's part-time, and be able to adjust for that? Because I always found that, if you have part-time employees, that the data's all off, because it's like, this person's completely underpaid, and you're like, actually, they're just working half-time.
Yeah,
Is there ability to kind of the system to pick that up?
Yeah, so all the benchmarks that we will display in Ravio is the full-time equivalent. And so what we do, whether it be via a manual upload or through the HRIS integration, is we will do the annualization calculations for you. So long as we know the working percentage or the working hours of that person, we will calculate their full-time equivalent and display that within the Ravio platform.
All right, that's good. Cool.
Awesome. And then just going back to, I guess, the data sharing point that we were talking about via the other market screen, we've also designed this to be, again, easy to share insights from. So you've got, again, the ability to download straight out of here, to use in review conversations. And as we spoke about, a manager in here would have access to all their employees, their base salary. You can also start to upload inputs like performance ratings, which might influence, okay, is this why a certain person is paid, in a certain position against the market data as well. So there's the ability for you to upload additional information to further inform all of the insights that you're getting from this screen.
Excellent.
Very cool.
Does this go into any kind of depth? I know that, this is benchmarking everything, but, can we show I see the middle tab up there says 12% market difference. So you're leading the market by 12% on average if I understand that. But 45% of the employees are below market. I mean, is there any way to try to quantify that in terms of, hey, if we wanted to get everyone to market, what might that cost us?
Yeah, so not something that's available right now within this specific module that we're looking at. So you can easily, deep dive within the overview screen and understand, who are those employees that are very below, for example, in this case, Eric, and then you could download the data to do some analysis. However, within our salary bands tool, which is separate functionality, something that you can look at, and I'll just kind of briefly show it up as a bit of a sneak peek. So within salary bands, you can build or upload ranges and compare them against market. And one of the things that we allow you to do from here is start to analyze, right, if we wanted to, at least bring people up to the bottom of their band, what is it going to cost us to be able to do that? So there is some of that functionality that exists in the tool.
Okay, fantastic.
Oh, that's very cool, actually.
Yeah.
That you can do that. That's always the question at the end of the day. The insights are great, but at the end of the day, the insights are there to make business decisions. So what is the business, impact, and what is that decision, that you want to do to correct any changes?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's nice to know like that you're below, but yeah, what which areas are the ones that are below? Are they the ones that we need to focus on? What is our so we can look into like what has our turnover rate been bad in that area there, or sure we're lagging, but it actually hasn't had an impact on much of anything. So do we need to approach it right now?
Yeah, absolutely. And that, goes back again, the ideal state where you've got the real-time integration with Ravio. One of the real benefits here is that you're not acting on data that's 6 months behind or on a employee set that is 6 months behind and doesn't capture new joiners. Here the data refreshes every single day. So you have new joiners in your HRIS, they're captured immediately. And all of these insights will adapt and evolve over time as well. So that when it comes to your pay review, you're not scrambling for 2 months beforehand to get all the data in a good shape so that you can start that analysis. You should be set up and ready to go.
Yeah, it's good. And
Excellent.
does this sometimes, you said, I mean, for hiring, this is always useful. I guess you have that ability to share with hiring managers like things and bands and give permission, so that kind of solves that problem. What about diversity, pay disparity, that kind of thing, like pay gap, and also EU pay transparency and stuff like that? Is there any kind of features around that that are interesting to share?
Yeah, so that's an increasingly like hot topic at the moment, right? So we have some like insights that you can draw straight out of the platform, because often one of the blockers for companies is just surfacing like, where do we actually sit today? And so we've designed Ravio to again make that really easy to understand at a glance. So you can see here when I've navigated to my home screen, I've got my market comparison that we were looking at before, but I've also got my pay equity analysis. So I can easily jump into this module and understand, what does my pay gap look like today? And we offer, a few different splits of this: adjusted, unadjusted, median, average, base salary, total cash. So you can kind of really dive into these views. And like before, you can also analyze this across different splits in your organization to understand, like, where is the place that we need to start taking action as well.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's good.
Excellent.
So, Erik, you
That's
wouldn't need to be
fantastic.
doing
Yeah.
as much sheet work.
Yeah, I'm yes, thank you. I mean, I don't know how else to say that, but that's
No,
amazing.
I'm ready.
Yeah, no, yeah. Where do I sign? Um, yeah, not that I don't love spreadsheets, don't get me wrong, but it's nice to have a solution like this that can do a lot of that math and everything on the back end, because the more you mess around with the spreadsheet, the more prone you are to finding error, or to putting in errors that you never meant to put in. So to have this kind of stuff and easy to break down, so I'm not inundated with pivot tables, is a fantastic thing.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it. That there's still a place for all of this modeling and work that goes on offline, but this hopefully gets you to that start point of that much sooner. Or maybe for teams that don't have that comp expertise in their organization today as well, this hopefully does a lot of that initial work for them. That means that they can free up time to spend on other priorities as well, because comp is often one of many tasks that person might face in any given day as well.
For sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
I like it. Thank you very much for showing us, Emma. I was happy to see. I haven't actually seen this deeply into Ravio before, so for me, this was also a first kind of deep dive behind the basics that I've seen. I think even late last year, I had a little look, but it wasn't that deep. So that's quite interesting to see what it does
Yeah.
there.
One question I have is, you mentioned like this is a couple of times, like this isn't something we have now, but something we're working on, maybe coming later. Can you share anything that maybe that's in the pipeline that maybe people might be excited to know if they're on the fence?
Yeah. So obviously, the kind of cornerstone of Ravio is the data. So that will be, a key area that we continue to expand and evolve. Last year, we added 23 new markets into the platform. So lots of growth and expansion there. Also on just the role coverage. So our taxonomy, we're expecting to again grow that in hopefully the coming months as well. And then in terms of some like functionality that we're looking to bring in, custom permissions is going to be one that we look at in the year, particularly with the kind of lens of hopefully allowing comp and people leaders to educate the wider team on compensation and it not be something that just falls on their plate. So evolving, as we spoke about, the manager permissions, for example, to allow those conversations to take place. And then a lot of the work, I imagine, will also be around the pay equity directive as that draws closer. So work on our salary bands, comp review modules, pay equity that we briefly looked at there, to allow companies to be able to make really confident decisions in those areas and be able to take actionable insight out of the platform as well.
Interesting.
Sure. You're mostly in tech right now. That's your primary focus. Is there any thoughts of or plans on expanding beyond that into other industries, or is tech really your wheelhouse that you're really planning on focus on for the long term?
Yeah, tech is definitely our main wheelhouse at the moment, and where we've kind of focused to date with the expansion of Ravio. But what we're now starting to explore as well is what we would kind of class as like adjacent industries. So a good example is fintech. We're looking at doing a lot of expansion there, where they might take benchmarking from obviously tech providers, but also as well like financial services is like a big element for them as well. So as we grow and evolve, I imagine we'll start to kind of do what we would call like a neighborhood by neighborhood approach and work out what are those sort of bridge style industries where it makes sense for us to expand into.
No, that makes sense.
And should I ask the final question on the hot topic of AI? Is there anything in the platform around, bringing in the newer AI functionality? Is it something already built in? Is there something around like, I don't know, like as you were going through, I was thinking, what would be really great from an employee perspective would be that I can like chat to Ravio about information that the company allows me to be privy to help me educate on, for instance, comp in my business, that I can chat to the comp bot and it tells me like information that's relevant for me. Like that would be something cool. Probably something you don't have, but like, is there something that have you thought about, how this could like take what you've got and kind of level it up with another, with the AI brush, so to speak?
Yeah, I would say AI like underpins a lot of like the, I guess, like underlying like background work in Ravio. So when we think about, the data modeling and the QA process, it's all still like data-led benchmarks, but part of like quality checks for that. Or when we talk about, the creation of salary bands, again, that's like a key area where AI plays a role. But we'll certainly look to bring more of it into the platform and service. I'm thinking particularly like Jessie, and again, this nothing like concrete yet here, but something that we've discussed is, around the pay equity directive and helping companies to surface, where do I need to make proactive changes to comply with, whatever this like legislation and directive start to look like. So I imagine there will start to be work that comes in more surface level that companies can interact with.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I want to wrap it up because we are close to time. Thank you very much for showing us the platform, Emma. It was really great to have a look around. Erik, thank you so much for joining us, asking questions and being here nice and early your time. Very much appreciated.
Yeah.
And if you would like to hear more or see more or talk to the team at Ravio, you can reach out to Emma, to someone in their team. They're all lovely. They're also on the stacked.tech database. You can also check them out there. And make sure if you are following me on LinkedIn that you watch out for the next one next week. So thanks everyone for joining, and we'll, yes, again, see you on the feed. I think that's what they say these days, because you've probably got me on your feed every day if you're here in the live. So we'll see you soon. Thanks everyone.